I love hard games. I'm not sure why, but growing up they were always the ones that stuck with me the most. So today we're going to go over some of my favorite difficult games and try and figure out why. I loved Terraria growing up. It was one of the first games I ever played on the Xbox 360, so I'm totally going to be biased about this. After playing the game for like 10 years, naturally I find it easy, but the Master Mode difficulty is still just insane. It's not even that different to Expert difficulty, which is the one I play on, but the bosses just have so much more health, making the fights last way longer. And on top of this, there's secret seeds you can play on that make the game much harder. Anyways, 10 out of 10 game, it's like $5 on Steam right now, go play it.
America's tits.
Elden Ring is another game I have a special connection to. I love this game from the bottom of my heart and I always will. The main thing I love about this game is that it's only as hard as you make it. Because it's open world, it's really easy to get stronger without facing any of the game's main bosses if you know where you're going. I do have a couple of issues with the game with regards to things like the camera and duo fights, but I'm sure it's mostly a skill issue. All this not to mention the DLC, which could have been sold as a game on its own and I wouldn't have complained. The spike in difficulty between the main game and the DLC is so big they had to make their own separate scaling system for it. I highly recommend this game if you haven't played it already. Risk of Rain is such a great idea for a game. It's a roguelike that gets harder the longer you take, and I think Risk of Rain 2 executes this perfectly in my opinion. I have nearly 600 hours in this game, and I've played and beaten all the DLCs. The base game's difficulty is challenging enough, but once you've beaten that, there's 8 extra challenge levels called Eclipse, which each add their own unique modifiers to the game. I'm still yet to beat Eclipse 8 on any character, despite my absurd amount of hours I poured into this game. But even if you're able to beat Eclipse 8 on every character, the game has a huge active modding community that are all really talented. It's such a shame this game isn't as popular as the last two I mentioned, because it more than deserves it. People like to say Bloodborne is the most hard Souls-like game FromSoft have ever released, but I think it just has a different playstyle. The monsters are a lot more aggressive and fast, and you're incentivized to be aggressive back by letting you heal while doing damage. And also having a ranged parry is insane if you get good at it. The game is hard nonetheless though. Even the starting area is an immediate skill check with the streets filled with countless enemies and your only choice of progression being your drunk dad or cocaine bear. A lot of people regard the DLC as the best DLC in the Souls series, even above Shadow of the Erdtree, which I think I agree with. Anyways, I'd let Lady Maria Asher's cigarette out on me, 10 out of 10 game. Hollow Knight is hard, but unlike Bloodborne, it feels fair. The starting area, the crossroads, might be the most perfect tutorial area out of any game I've ever played. I'll put a map of it on screen, but the way the rooms are connected is in a giant oval. It forces you to explore almost the entire area till you're allowed to progress. The first boss, False Knight, is a load of fun too. He's big and slow with massive punish windows and simple attacks, but somehow he's not too easy. He serves to teach you the main gameplay of Hollow Knight bosses, which is dodging and waiting for an opening. I've never beaten Absolute Radiance before, but I have beaten Nightmare King Grim, and I don't think I've ever struggled with anything so hard in my entire life. While I do think the whole thing of making the attacks that do 1 damage do 2 damage instead is really lazy, Grim was still really fun. His attacks are really fast-paced and have small opening times, forcing you to learn every move. I haven't played Silksong yet, but I'll get around to it at some point, don't kill me. Celeste has to be one of the best games I've ever played. The gameplay and story are so simple, yet really effective. And having a new mechanic be added every level was really fun, and then combining them all for the final level was a really smart idea. It took me nearly 30 hours to beat Celeste, but I've seen people beat it in like 2, and the game isn't even that long either. I googled it, it said like 8 hours. I don't know, maybe I just suck at platforming. Don't even get me started on the mods either. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to beat this? There isn't a whole lot to say about Celeste gameplay-wise, other than it just feels fluid and polished. It's one of the best controls I've ever seen in a platforming game, with really unique gimmicks between levels. It doesn't have much in the way of bosses, but what it does have is really, really well done. I enjoyed my time with this game so much, and for like $10, it's more than worth it. Deltarune is hands down my personal favorite game I've ever played, in case you couldn't tell. The gameplay, art style, and dialogue are all near perfect in my opinion. Even Chapter 1, the most boring part of the game, is still tons of fun. I'm not going to talk about Undertale, the game that came before this one, because it's essentially the same gameplay-wise. However, the secret bosses in Undertale are much harder than anything in Deltarune, in my opinion. I still haven't beaten Sans 10 years after the game released. Deltarune is by no means a hard game, but for some reason all the secret bosses are extremely difficult. Not only that, but they're hard to get to as well. They've all got secret side quests you have to do in order to unlock them, which are all really convoluted and confusing. The rewards are super worth it though. All the weapons and armor you get make the rest of the game super easy. There's no words I can say that do this game justice, you just have to play it yourself. Now that we've gone over what games I really enjoyed and found difficult, now we need to go over why. Well, the answer lies in motivation. Intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation, something I learned about in therapy a while back, but I never connected it to my love for hard games until now. Intrinsic motivation is more of an inner desire to do well, like proving yourself that you can beat it. Think of it like every time you lose or mess up in a game, it makes it that whenever you finally perfect it, all the more satisfying. When you play one of these games, you're setting goals for yourself, even if you don't realize it. And after completing these goals, it sets off your brain's reward center. While this does make games more satisfying to play, some of them tend to abuse this with things like a battle pass or lord icons for Marvel Rival, for example. They give you artificial goals to work towards so that you play the game for longer, which can lead to you still playing but not having fun. I think that's how the Dead by Daylight community got as toxic as it is. The fans are so hooked on the game because of all the goals like the Rift Pass and the Blood Web and whatever collection event is on at the time, but the balancing of Dead by Daylight just fucking sucks. The reason I think this is the case is because it's not like COD or FIFA or any of those games where they release a new one every year. I think the reason why people play those games is because there's just no contenders to them. Dead by Daylight has had many good contenders, yet none of them last because everyone always ends up going back to Dead by Daylight. This whole thing makes sense because all those games I mentioned earlier aren't live service, so I only ever find myself going back to them whenever new content comes out and more goals are set. Anyways, making progress in a game that makes it difficult makes it more rewarding. Mind blown, right? I hope you enjoyed this video. It's my first time making something like this, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.